Alright YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today guys, we're gonna talk about the 5 water decks that you can use for the Water and Wind Festival. First and foremost, I can't seem to think of some other good wind decks. From the top of my head, I think we have Laundries and Speedroid. Maybe Arm Dragon or Dragonity. It's either one of those. That can be a really good deck also. But I haven't go into the whole wind decks entirely. But regardless, here are some 5 water decks that you might use for this event. So let's start off with our first deck. Okay, so for our first deck here, we have here Umi. Umi is practically full powered for this event, and with no Maxi, no Ash Blossoms, no other hand traps other than Droll and Lockbird and Moonlit Chill, you're perfectly fine with this event. And basically, you have a face-up Raikushin on the field, which is basically a floodgate in its own sense, which allows your opponent to only have one non-water monster on the field. This is pretty good for a deck, honestly, but since you're dealing with water decks entirely, I don't think this might be a really good counter to water decks as well. So take note on that one, but this is one good deck as well that you might use, of course. You also have your Electric Jellyfish as your Omni Negate. Well, not technically Omni Negate because it doesn't negate trap cards, but it's still a really good card, and it increases attack and defense for every negation, which is pretty cool. You have also your Mega Fortress Whale, which allows you to attack your opponent's life points directly if Umi is on the field. And you have your Warrior of Atlantis that gets you a copy of your Legendary Ocean. For your consistency makers, you have your Foolish Burial Goods to dump a copy of Ice Barrier, your copy of Triple Tactics Talent, your Pot of Extravagance, and Pot of Prosperity. Triple Tactics is also a board breaker in a sense, so you might want to use this. Now, Evenly Match might be a really good card, especially if you're going up against some other decks that floods the field. But I do think you can replace this one with Droll and Lockbird in a sense, or Imperms. That can be a really good change as well. I'm running Red Reboot. You can choose not to run this, maybe add or replace this one with your other board breakers like Raigekis or Harpies for the Duster. Extra deck is basically your 3 Synchro Monsters, Ice Jade, your Sword Soul Chengying, and your Dragite. You can summon this with the help of your Ran Angerine. This is basically dumping one water monster to the graveyard and then special summoning this plus a token that you can go into a copy of one of your level 10 Synchro Monsters. The rest of this arsenal from the extra deck are situational cards, like a copy of Abyss Dwellers, a copy of Stealth Kraken if you're dealing with water decks as well, and a copy of Coral Anemone that can gain you access to one water monster from the graveyard with 1,500 attack or less. And then Abyss Dweller as well, another good card for this water deck. But that is your Umi deck. Let's move on with the second deck. Okay, so for the second deck, we have here a pure Goatee deck. No, not technically a pure deck, but you get the point. So we got the new supports, the White Reincarnation. This was my previous version for the Goatee deck before I played it on ranked. After a while, I just changed it because it wasn't that formidable against the meta decks. But so far with this event, I think this would be a really good deck to stand out against some other water or wind decks. So Evenly Match is a really good card as well. You can choose, like I said earlier, you can choose to run Droll and Lockbird for this since you're already using a copy of Infinite Impermanence. White Reincarnation allows you to gain access to one fish monster, which is a copy of Abyss Shark, or even a copy of White Sunfish. Sunfish is a really good addition to this arsenal as well. If you dump a copy of Sardine to the graveyard, you can spell summon that Sardine by the use of Sunfish, and then that Sardine will turn itself into a tuner, which allows you to gain access to a level 6 Synchro Monster that easy. And if you don't have other Goatees on hand or in the graveyard, you can just banish it with a copy of your Iron Pus. Primary targets for this is a copy of Physics, which allows you to banish, spell summon to the field, gain access to one other Goatee, and then move along with your combo afterwards. We are also running a copy of Hop Ear Squadrons. Luckily, this is the only wind monster that you have in your arsenal, so that's pretty good. The rest are either giving you monsters to the field as an extra body for your Synchro Monsters or Link Monsters. And then for your Spell and Trap cards, it's just your enablers or being your consistency makers for the deck as well. I am also adding the new card, which is White Aura Porpoise, which is a really good card as well. So you can spell summon one level 4 or lower fish monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. That's still a pretty good effect. One Dragite, and that's basically it. The same things that we're using in the Goatee deck that we had earlier. So that is your Goatee deck, or your pure Goatee deck, I would say. Let's move on with our third deck. So for our third deck here, we have Marinces. Now, honestly, guys, the only missing part for the Marinces with this event is the trap card, the Marinces Wave. And that's one of the most formidable trap cards that you can use for the deck. But even so, I would say this or the other Marinces cards are basically complete, so you can just use this to its full potential. It might be less impactful because the trap card is not available for you, but you can just add another card that will help you out for that one. So maybe a copy of Harpy's Duster or a second copy of Triple Tactics Talent, either of which is still a pretty good card. Some other board breakers that you might actually use for this deck. The best part about Marinces is your whole arsenal doesn't take up more space in your main deck, so having a copy of Imperm and a copy of Drone Lockbird might be a really good choice for you. Your extra deck is basically all Marinces at this point, and it just recycles back or cycles back your cards from your graveyard to your hand. It's a pretty strong deck overall, even though that you don't have the Marinces Wave. I do advise having to use this if you know how this deck really works, and it is quite fun if you actually want to play this during the event. So that is Marinces. Let's move on with our fourth and fifth deck. For our fourth deck, this is Ice Jades. So Ice Jades is pretty good. Well, a mixture of Ice Jades and Atlanteans. I've seen some gameplays with this. This is quite fun. All you need to do is summon a copy of Ice Jade, Grim, or Igerine to the field, and you're basically sorted out for the whole archetype. It hasn't like performed really well in rank that it would be a go-to deck to be played with, but it is pretty good for synchro summoning as well. So if you are interested and if you have the cards that you might use for the Ice Jades, because I think they're quite expensive, because having 2 URs here, 1 UR here, and the rest are all SRs. Oh yeah, the 2 URs for the extra deck. The rest are all SRs. It's pretty good, I would say. I think they're still lacking 1 card here. I forgot the copy of the Elemental Lore. That would be a really good addition to this deck as well. This is still a really good deck and a fun deck, to be honest with you guys. I've seen some gameplays. They are pretty fun. It's kind of like GOTY in a sense. Nevertheless, one of the good decks that you can actually use for this event. So that's Ice Jades, and let's move on with our final deck, which I'm not sure if everybody would like to use this. So let's check that one out. Okay, so for our last deck is Palios. Palios are basically water monsters. This is a 60 card Paleo deck, and I'm not sure if this still applies because some of the people are using this with Labyrinth or using this with Backjack. But overall, it's still a pretty strong deck, having to summon level 2s to the field and then control your field with the help of the trap cards in your graveyard or on the field. It doesn't really work too much with monsters, so you just have to use your Laundry Dragon Maid, which allows you to mill cards, and a copy of Treb Infecting Virus just to have fun. You can remove this. Honestly, I just placed this one just to have fun. It is still a really good card though, just to destroy your opponent's monsters. But the rest is pretty good. You have your negations, you have your flip everything face down. You have some cards from the Palios that banishes cards. You have your trap cards as well from the Palios that gains back the trap cards from the banished pile to or back to your graveyard. It is still a really good deck, to be honest. And with the help of rollback, it will be pretty good. It's not really like the go-to deck that you would typically run in an event, but it might be a good choice for people who like trap decks in general. Honestly, guys, Palios are very easy to actually use. Majority of the time, they are unaffected by other monster effects, so it's pretty insane for this deck. And you have your Paleo monsters that can gain access to more trap cards as well, so pretty insane for the deck. I would advise people on using this just to have fun. You can remove the URs as well. There's some other good URs like a copy of Card of Destruction and Card Destruction that can gain you a ton of cards to the graveyard and then sort off your trap cards as well. It's up to you. The Magical Mallet that can send back cards and then gain back the cards that you really want, since you don't have to worry about Ash Blossoms or whatnot. But yeah, like I said, pretty good, fun trap card deck if you are a fan of trap cards. And that is basically our last deck for this video. So, tell me your thoughts. And there is another deck as well, Mermail and Atlanteans. I haven't tackled that one, so I don't know how that would work here. But I'm pretty sure that would be a pretty good archetype as well for this event if you have all the copies. I think a lot of the Mermails are URs. Or was it the Atlanteans? I'm not sure. But it's quite of a average price of a deck for Master Duel. But if you have the cards already, might as well just gonna use it in this event. It's a pretty fun deck as well, as I've seen some gameplays online. But anyways, that's basically it for today, guys. Keep safe, good luck. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.